Hey guys, we are back. Leo just said hello, beautiful humans. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for jumping back in here. Here's Kat. I talked to her for just a second in the Facebook group, not the one for Madalina, but the regular Crime Lines and Lies. Birdie's dancing. Prissy says, hope everyone's having a great day. I do too. I do too. After the last show, hopefully your hips are intact and you're ready for round two. Because that was a lot of BS to take in all at once. Hello, Shep. Carla's in here. JTB's in the house. Rowena was in the tanning bed during the last show. I haven't been to the tanning bed in a long time, but it is getting spring. It's almost time for spring, and it's time to tan my can. Hello, Slim. Hello, Nana. Hope everyone's doing good. We have some things to go over today about Madalina. The search warrant was unsealed yesterday. There's 46 pages to it. I'm looking for, as the cool channels say, a deep dive. I was really prepared to do, as the cool channels say, a real deep dive. Well, it's heavily redacted and a lot of repeating going through it. It was like Groundhog Day. I'm like, hang on, I thought I just read that. Then I realized I had. But anyway, it's there for the most part and unsealed. We're going to talk about that. Go through the newest revelation, which is where they're looking now. We have Lauren backstage. I did not pin the link. I'm going to put the link up so everybody can give me your thoughts on Madalina and what's going on here. I have to grab my deep dive notes. We're doing a deep dive. Kat said, repeating like a replay. Cool, you're the best, Brooks. Well, I'm not going to repeat all of that. No, I'm not going to. Not at all. First, I'm going to go through the comments, put the link up. We have Lauren backstage and get through all of this because something's going to have to be done. And I do believe for 1,000%, law enforcement is 100% behind finding Madalina. No stone unturned, as they say. They truly are doing a deep dive. A deep dive. All right, from the last show about Madalina, one of the first comments, straight out of the chute, said it's unprofessional to play the music and say hi forever. Well, I don't play the music and say hi forever, but I want to take a vote amongst my friends here. Do you want the show just to start and me just jump right into it? Or do you care that the music plays for a minute? We say hi, we BS a little bit, and let everybody get their notification and get settled in. I need to take a final vote on this because it seems to have offended one person. And you know how it goes. When one person gets upset, we are all supposed to stand at attention and answer to that one person. Rexy, leave show as is. Ryan Christie said play music and chat. Rowena has to dance. That's how Rowena gets her exercise. This person is being very selfish by taking away Rowena's aerobics. There. Yaya said Diana seemed to have lost her mind and her in danger scenario is not going to help her with the courts. No, it's not. It's not. There is no danger dangerous enough for your child to go missing and you to make no attempt to alert the authorities. None. I don't care what it is. She wants to say there's domestic violence in the home, that she was afraid of Chris. Not going to work. If she wants to say she didn't want to cause a conflict, she did say that. Not going to work. You can't find a minor child. You can't find a minor child. You get the police. You get the police. Fun to Ski said kidnapping, blood, body fluids, clothing, and shoes makes you think that Madalina's clothing could have been burned in the fire pit. Bingo. Bingo. And to add to that, Tanya said, didn't her mother claim the last time she saw Madalina was when she was in her bed or getting ready for bed? If so, why was she last seen wearing jeans, Adidas shoes, and a jacket? We don't wear things like that to bed. We don't wear things like that to bed. Was she sleeping in those clothes, Tanya said? She said, maybe I missed something. Maybe I did too. Maybe I did too. We don't sleep in our sneakers. Here's the new flyer. I put it on the community tab. Notice Chris is not on the new flyer. It's a Prius, Madalina, and her mother in, I'm going to assume, a reversible jacket that she, it's like the same pose, same hat. Very strange. Let's bring up local Lauren. That's not her YouTube name, but I just want you all to know that she's local to the area. We have Sluggy backstage. Kat said she might grab the link. Going to have a good show talking about this search warrant. Good afternoon, Lauren. How are you, hon?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. What did you make out of that search warrant? What we could read?
I was going to say not much because so much was limited. I mean, really, that they collected 25 items, I think it was. I don't think it really showed us anything more than we already knew.
I kind of thought the same, except for, spoiler alert, if you go to page 35, it shows they took 3 iPhones, and then they did take a bunch of stuff out of the house, but they don't tell us what they took.
The 3 iPhone thing didn't stand out to me as much as it did other people, because if you went through my house, I probably have 5 around here, because if we get a new one, it just becomes in the drawer. So I thought that could maybe just be one that's not even being used.
Good point.
Yeah.
And also, I do like how they're already dotting the I's when they said it's very common when someone's about to commit a crime or has committed a crime to change the number, and they have extended their warrant to look to see if any account changes have been made. And Kat said, page 35, yeah, no shit, they took phones. I wasn't surprised that they took phones. I was surprised that they could possibly have a third line. But like Lauren said, it could be an old phone. I don't know. Let's see what Sluggy thinks. Sluggy, what did you make out of what little bit of the search warrant we could see?
Hey, nothing. I mean, the only thing is the phones. That's the only thing that we didn't know. And I mean, Diana claims that Madalina didn't have a phone, but I mean, we obviously can't believe her. Was it Madalina's phone? Was it an old phone? Was it another line?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was wondering too. I'm surprised they didn't take more electronics out. The smart TV, a laptop, an iPad. But I'm like, okay, so she says Madalina didn't have a phone. Well, like you said, is it Madalina's phone? Because they don't inventory. There's no inventory sheet as to whose phone they took. We can guess Chris. We can guess Diana. So
I think it did have both of them somewhere saying that it was their phones. I don't know, on one of the 46 pages. But it didn't say anything about a third one or...
Interesting. I just don't know why, if you're going to unseal it, then what's the point? I mean, I guess maybe just for the public, so you can say, well, look, we unsealed it. Really wasn't a lot to go through. It was kind of a good refresher course on the probable cause, for sure.
The only other thing that I thought that was really interesting in there is how quickly they got the search warrant. I think that was pretty interesting. It was really right after.
Yeah.
But that's really the only thing in there. I mean, I do recall it saying that it was Chris and Diana's property, but it didn't clarify.
No, not too much. Now, I know a couple of the local reporters, newscasters, whatever you want to call them, deep divers, alluded to supplies that would be discussed in a kidnapping. I mean, you can't kidnap your own child unless there's some sort of custody dispute going on or something. There wasn't anything like that going on between Diana and Chris. Where is this coming from?
I think that it was just the beginning and they really just didn't know. That or that Chris was not her biological father and he is not her legal guardian. So is that considered kidnapping if he took her?
That's what I want to know. I mean, he's in jail for not reporting her missing. So obviously they consider him he's responsible for her. They wouldn't report me for not knowing she's missing.
Yeah, I think it was just a simple fact of even though they have an idea, right? We all have an idea of what happened. They can't, they're still working to prove it. So I think they just kind of use that verbiage.
True.
Yeah, like they didn't know. They didn't know at the beginning what was going on. Nobody was talking. Nobody was saying anything. So I think that they were just, checking all avenues.
That's true. Well, where do you guys know Lauren particularly, do you know where the search is right now? Are they currently still searching in the mountain area where they were asking people to look, or if they had seen the Prius?
So I know that they were out there Monday. I actually am trying to figure that piece out because we may be extending food to them if they are becoming actively involved in this case. So I'm actually waiting on a call back from the sheriff out there. But I know they're asking a lot of people. They're asking people for camera footage. They're wanting to just see if anyone got anything that could help them. But I'm not sure if it's anything like ground searching. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, a local from that area came forward and said that they were like searching a further spot than the turnoff, but since Monday, we haven't heard anything.
That's the last thing I heard was on Monday. Well. I mean, they're asking people to look in that area for a reason. They don't like to waste their own time.
Well,
Right.
she had an interaction with the police. She was pulled off there and somebody thought she was ODing and they called the police.
Yeah.
And the police came and so she was there.
Yes.
And, everybody that we talked to says that this road is not a road that you just find.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason she was there.
And it happens to be around the time that she says Madalina went to bed and he goes to Michigan, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So we can't clarify exactly what day that was. We are looking for it, but we have not seen like the exact date that she was seen there. I would like to know, but
we know what the flyer says. Let me play the news clip. Maybe that'll refresh our memories a little bit. Hang on.
Right now at 5, new details tonight in the search for missing Cornelius 11-year-old Madalina Cojocari. Cornelius police now turning their focus to Madison County, North Carolina. That's outside of Asheville. It's more than 100 miles northwest of Cornelius. It's out by the Tennessee border.
They are asking for witnesses who may have seen Diana Cojocari or Prius in the area. WCNC Charlotte's Chloe Leshner is live at the Cornelius Police Department. Chloe, what do we know?
Hey, Fred and Vanessa, police say that Diana Cojocari was in the Madison County, North Carolina area sometime between November 22nd and December 15th. That is the period of time when she says she last saw Madalina and when she reported her missing. A new push for information 150 miles away from where Madalina Cojocari was last seen publicly. Cornelius police releasing new information Friday morning, asking firsthand witnesses in the Madison County, North Carolina area to come forward. They released new pictures of Diana Cojocari and a picture of a Prius, asking anyone who may have seen her or it to contact police.
They have some evidence that she was spotted or her car was spotted in this area.
They're specifically asking for sightings in the 3-week time period they did not know Madalina was missing. That gap in the timeline critical to the investigation.
From an investigative standpoint, trying to get as much movement information as possible, cell phone records, all of that information will help to track where the mother was, where the father was during these particular hours.
Former FBI agent M. Quentin Williams says any little tip can help in this type of investigation.
Cameras are really important. They're vital. So anybody with camera footage in those areas or between here and there that might have some footage, that's going to be really important.
This morning, the judge who originally sealed the search warrants in this case ruled that she would unseal them partially. Anything that is already not out in the public, though, would be redacted. She's also going to release the motion to seal those warrants. We are hoping and expecting to get those documents soon. Live in Cornelius, Chloe Leshner, WCNC Charlotte.
We'll be watching it closely. Chloe, thank you for that update. And we know there are a lot of twists and turns in this case to follow. To see how it got to this point, we have an interactive timeline walking you through the major plot points that's available right now on our website, WCNC.com, and on our mobile app.
Well, I mean, as of Monday, it looked like they were really leaning towards that area.
You want to know what I want to know?
What?
Where did they get those pictures of Madalina?
That's what I want to know, because I couldn't, I mean, they weren't on, was it maybe a family member?
That's what
I think it was off the phone.
Oh.
They look like selfies. I mean, to me.
Yeah, but are they able to, are they able to take photos off of their phones?
Well, I mean, what's their option? I mean, we looked for days and days and days to find one photo of this girl.
I would think family before that, but I don't know how that works.
Seems to me that it would be off the phone. Do you mean that the selfies, it looks like a selfie of Madalina or of Diana? Because Diana's definitely looked like a selfie.
Oh,
They both look like selfies, I think.
Oh, okay. I think they got them off a phone because we've been through everything, and I when those pictures popped up, I was like, where did those come from?
Well, I mean, they could have come from the family. They definitely could have. Chris's family, I would assume. Or a selfie that was taken, and sent to family.
Right.
I just thought it was a very strange turn of events when an updated flyer comes out and it doesn't have Chris on it. And I'm sure at this point, I guess it's just a financial issue he's having sitting there, but he's still in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have, they're not alluding to, but it's mentioned, supplies needed for kidnapping or something like that. Diana can't kidnap her own child. There's no custody thing going on. He's in jail for not reporting her missing, which would mean he's a responsible party to her. So he can't kidnap her because he is the stepfather. So what are they looking at? Are they ruling something out, or what am I misreading here?
I personally think they're ruling something out. I don't think there's a third party involved in this. I think if there was any indication that there was a third party, that they would give us a little tiny bit of hint that there was. But there's been no mention of a third party anywhere.
Did either of you ever hear this? Mary said they had 2 different numbers for her. So maybe once they tapped into her other phone.
The numbers were actually blacked out.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that yet.
Let me put the search warrant up real quick. Give me a second. All right, this is what I was talking about. Page 35. Page 35. So there's their address, the county. Date of search was 12/15. I wonder how long, like to the minute, because I'm really curious, after when she failed to bring Madalina to the school. But there it says a search warrant issued There we got 11 items that they took out. There's the 3 Apple iPhones in a row. And down to, okay, 24 items.
Looking at this, I really think that they know what happened. In a way, I've never seen a search warrant redacted this much. I think that they really know what they're looking for.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it mentions in the paperwork, I mean, in the search warrant, bodily fluid, blood, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they didn't find any items like that, but that's what they're looking for.
Well, we don't know if they found any items like that, right? I mean, that's where they were going into it looking for, right?
Right. I mean, we haven't had another press release either, and I would love to have one. But we don't know where they are really at all.
No, and not another press conference either. Hang on. Okay, so it says see attached property evidence to be seized. And of course, we can't see what it is. Constitutes evidence of a crime and the identity of a person participating in a crime. Name the crime. It says 14-39 kidnapping. So, of course, that got people talking.
Yeah, and just to backtrace for a minute about her clothing that Diana said she was wearing, when she was last seen. In my opinion, that's what she was wearing, the last time we have a credible life, I just think that they were basing it off that.
But that doesn't look like what she was wearing. Is that what she was wearing on the school bus? That doesn't look like the same clothes. Because I really
I would just.
Oh, go ahead.
I would assume it's whatever clothes she got rid of,
Yeah, that they were looking for, like the last credible something. They had to have been looking for that for a reason. I mean, why would Diana, how would she remember?
I would be so frantic. I would not remember. Yeah, right. Exactly. I think it's just whatever they got rid of, that's what it was. That's what would be missing.
Because I would have a hard time trusting Diana to tell me, because Diana said the last time she saw her, she was going to bed. And then we hear about these clothes that she has on. Well, those aren't bedtime clothes. And what she had on getting off the bus, that doesn't look like those clothes. So, yeah, I was a little curious about that, because I wouldn't trust Diana to tell me what she had on or could
See,
have.
I think she is being honest about what she has had on, because she remembers it so vividly. So like they said the book bag, they said the clothes, that was probably in a book bag and thrown in the fire. You know what I mean? Like there's no way you would remember exactly what that is, right? Like I feel like there's a reason that was said so perfectly.
Yeah, I would just have a hard time taking Diana's word for anything, because, frankly, she's sitting in jail for not reporting her missing. I mean, she's sitting in jail for not reporting her missing. She had to have been lying to the school. I mean, we can go back through the probable cause. It says December 15th at approximately 13:12 hours, officer responded to Bailey Middle School. The defendant, Diana, reported that her 11-year-old daughter, Madalina, had been missing since Wednesday, November 23rd. I don't even think she could really 100% be trusted on the date.
Right. Oh, no, they can't be trusted on anything.
Mm-mm.
I just think that there's a reason they're saying that clothes, because they're going to look in the house for those clothes and they're not going to find them,
Well, and on the flyer, it says they're looking for anyone who may have seen the Toyota Prius, or they say white female, which is Diana, in the area they're talking about. They said between November 22nd and November 15th. She says November 21st.
And maybe Chris's face is not on there because he wasn't in the car.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they said it was just her.
Right. So,
I just
maybe
hope to God that he does not. The first thing I thought of when I saw this, and just her on it, and I get it, like she was the only one in the car, but I'm like, I hope that he does not get off on this,
Well, I just find it interesting that she's pulled over in the middle of nowhere, 2.5 hours away on this big lonely road or whatever it is in the middle of the mountains. And it looks like she slumped over and OD'd, and her
I
reason
haven't
is she's
heard the ODP. Where did that come from? I don't feel
Now,
like I've
where did
seen
the
that.
OD story come from? And if she slumped over, someone thinks she OD'd. Were paramedics called?
It was a local, and the person reached out that was the one that encountered that.
Oh, see, I thought it was just a police officer saw her car pulled over and was just checked to make sure that she was good because it's at night in the mountains.
Yeah, the person that called said allegedly she looked like she was OD'd. Looked like she was slumped over, and they called.
They spoke with her?
Yeah. No. They didn't speak with her. They called.
Like
they called it in.
Yeah. Well, either way, I mean, if she's sitting there, I don't know exactly if that's true or not. People may be true, maybe not. But regardless, if she was sitting there, it kind of makes me feel like, oh, was she remorseful for something that she did? But I mean, she hasn't cracked yet, so I just don't get it.
Well, and Kat just said a mouthful. Thank you, Kat, for the super sticker. She said, interesting, that they are looking in the mountains of North Carolina. They're not asking for help en route to Michigan.
I just don't think they have anything proving that Michigan happened.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
So where was Chris's ass all this time? And why
At
is he
home?
at home, and he's in jail for not reporting her missing? Then we go back to the probable cause. Detectives discovered that on Monday, December 12th, Bailey Middle School resource officers attempted an at-home visit with a school counselor in reference to Madalina. Mrs. Lampkin stated Madalina had not been to school since Monday, November 21st. So that's our last proof of life, in all honesty, because we can't depend on Chris or Diana to say she truly went to bed on the 21st, or she had on Adidas sneakers on the 22nd when she went to the mountains. Because they're asking for anyone that saw that car between November 22nd to the 15th to let them know. They said there was no answer at the door and a truancy packet was left. When it gets hysterical to me is when it gets down to number 5, and it says Diana said that she and her husband Chris argued that night, and the next morning he drove to his family's home in Michigan to recover some items. Now, of course, it doesn't say what items they are, and like Lauren said, I don't think they have any proof he went to Michigan.
I just think if they did, they would be blasting it out every state that it takes to get to Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, she could be anywhere between North Carolina and Michigan. They would be like, if you've seen the car that he was driving, tag number, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Let us know.
Yeah. No, I think that was just a part of their story.
Diana said she went to check on Madalina around 11:30 on the 24th. This has got to be a typo. And noticed Madalina was not in her room. Diana said she waited until Saturday, November 26th, when Chris returned home before asking if he knew where Madalina was located. Chris stated he did not, and he asked her the same question in return. I'll never get over this conversation between Diana and Chris. She waits several days for him to return home and ask him, have you seen Madalina? Now, what the hell was she doing in all this time? Because most people would be crawling out of their skin, upset with worry about their child. But she waits. Go ahead.
I just think it's because they didn't have their, purposely. Again, this was all done, masterminds of these two. They probably left their phones, and that's why they did not communicate, because they knew they didn't have their phones. Whether he was at home, she was headed to the mountains regardless. I doubt that they took their phones with them to do whatever they did,
Oh, hell no, because they have those phones.
Right.
And another huge thing that we haven't talked about is the worker at the store that lives near their house. She claims that they came in multiple times during when Madalina was missing, acting like newlyweds.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and tell us that story, because it dropped my jaw for sure. Ryan said, I think law enforcement thinks Chris is not involved with Madalina's disappearance, but he's in jail for not reporting her missing. And that very well could be. He could have just come back from wherever and he gets hit with, have you seen Madalina? No. Have you? These two act like they lost the remote. I know I've said that before. I'll say it 500 more times. Anybody in their right mind talking about Chris, who must not be in his right mind or have something to cover, then he would have said, well, we've got to call somebody to help find her. She had to have given him some kind of excuse for him not to call, is all I can think of. Of course, there's way more to this story.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, when we were talking to the worker, you know, we did ask if she saw them between the 23rd and the 26th when he claimed he was in Michigan. And she said that she obviously couldn't answer. So it was kind of answering without answering, I would say. So we have no proof he went to Michigan.
And I don't think they do either. I'm wondering if he told them he went to Michigan or if this is truly just Diana's story. And as the clock ticks and eventually they will have to let her out because she would have served her time for not reporting, because it's not a very long stint, then they can slap charges on her for, well, lying to the police. By now, they have figured out if he went to Michigan or not.
How long is it? How long will they be in there for failure to failure to not report? I thought it was a decent.
I think it's 4 months.
Okay.
Well, I did my deep dive, which was a Google search, and I want to say it was 6 months. But then a news reporter said it could be only 4 months. So as that clock ticks away, they'll have to find something else to put on them. And if she made up that story that he went to Michigan and they've been using police resources to figure out whether he did or did not go to Michigan, they could slap her with that charge. Now, Michelle said it's up to a year in North Carolina. See what happens when you do it? No?
Yeah, North Carolina, I thought they're a little hefty on that charge. But my thing is, I feel like soon they should have enough to be able to charge them for more. It's very obvious they were involved. I hope that Chris gets equal to her because it seems like he had her do the dirty work, possibly. Mm-hmm. And that's just disgusting in general, but I don't know.
Well, and like Ryan said, this is a super nice neighborhood. You know, people have cameras. So somebody just captured Chris coming and going. Because I don't think he was in Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of loop everybody has on their cameras anymore, though. Because some people, it's like a 12-hour loop. Some people, it re-records after 3 days. So that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Kim said, hopefully evidence collected at the house. Yeah, like 25 items, but we only know of 3 phones. We don't know about the other 22 items. It'd be not just out of my curiosity, I'd like to know. But they're not going to tell us. So News Nation did talk about this last night. I'm going to play that clip real quick. Let me take this down. The link is pinned if anybody else wants to come up and let us know what you think, because this is just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so Michelle said it's up to a year in North Carolina. It's one of the local stations. It's a Charlotte station that said could be, remember, this is could be just 4 months, because they have an attorney that can get them out of jail. Not many people serve their whole sentence unless it's murder.
Missing 11-year-old North Carolina girl. We've learned police seized phone records and data from Madalina, Cojocari's mother and stepfather's phones. Madalina was last seen getting off her school bus. This is a video, but it's from back in November. Her mother and stepfather waited 3 weeks to report her missing and now face charges and are in custody for that. Derek Dellinger from our Charlotte affiliate WJZY has been following this story from the beginning. Derek, thank you so much for joining us again. What do these warrants give us a better idea of, what investigators think may have happened to Madalina?
Well, it gives us better context. That is really the important thing. And it gives us a better timeline, too. And more specifically, around December 15th, when Madalina was finally reported missing, that is when police started initiating some of these search warrants, specifically for the cell phone records and also here at the home. We are actually outside the Cojocari home now. As far as the cell phone records, let's get to those first. Specifically, they were looking for GPS data. They want to know where those phones specifically were. They want to know where the people were. In addition to that, they want to know who they called and texted. As far as what came from the home, though, that's the really interesting thing. So a lot of the...
I got to back that up. I'm going to slow him down. He talks faster than me. Hell. Okay, so the news anchor here says, and they waited 3 weeks to report her missing. Let's say it the way it really is. They didn't report her missing. They got put in a corner. Diana got put in a corner. She was told, produce Madalina. She shows up to the school. She knows she can't produce her. She knows it. She got pinned. She got pinned. There was no reporting at all. I got to slow that down. Whew. He's making me nervous. Just a little bit.
Following this story from the beginning, Derek, thank you so much for joining us again. What do these warrants give us a better idea of, what investigators think may have happened to Madalina?
Well, it gives us better context. That is really the important thing. And it gives us a better timeline, too. And more specifically, around December 15th, when Madalina was finally reported missing, that is when police started initiating some of these search warrants, specifically for the cell phone records and also here at the home. We are actually outside the Cojocari home now. As far as the cell phone records, let's get to those first. Specifically, they were looking for GPS data. They wanted to know where those phones specifically were. They wanted to know where the people were. In addition to that, they want to know who they called and texted. As far as what came from the home, though, that's the really interesting thing. So a lot of the information is redacted out. They have not exactly said what they did get out of the home. However, we do know what they were looking for. More specifically, it was a wide net. They were looking for a little bit of everything. They were looking for everything from documents to handguns, any type of weapons, even blood.
All right, so Derek, one of the warrants...
Even blood. Blood's a big one. Blood's a big one when you have a search warrant. Caitlin, I put the link up. Sorry about that. I meant to pin it before the show, and I didn't. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. Let me put that back just a little.
Life.
Oh, I'm telling you what. That's exactly what was going on.
Weapons, even blood.
All right, so Derek, one of the warrants also indicates they were looking for evidence of a kidnapping. Do we know anything more about that possible angle?
Well, that's a significant thing that actually came as a result of the warrants that came out today. Now, we can't necessarily consider this too terribly unusual because that's what they were looking for. Just because that they were looking for that doesn't necessarily mean they found that. And it's worth noting that the parents consider this too terribly unusual because that's what they were looking for. Just because that they were looking for that doesn't necessarily mean they found that. And it's worth noting that the parents right now, they are just charged with failure to file a report on the disappearance of a child. They haven't been charged with anything else yet, and it's important to know when they were looking for that, this was late last month, that they haven't been charged with that yet, so there's no indication as to whether or not they actually have any evidence of it just yet.
All right, so no indication there. We do know, however, Madalina's stepfather, he made a trip to Michigan around the time she went missing. We also know now that her mother also left the area around that time. So how is that information playing into this investigation?
Well, she went missing, or she actually left the area. She went to the area around the time Madalina went missing. The specific area that they were looking for specifically is in Western North Carolina, about 3 hours west of where we are right now. Now, as far as what she did, that's still a big consideration. Police and sheriff's deputies in that part of the state, they're actually asking people, hey, if you saw her car, if you saw a woman who looked a lot like her, that's they want you to come forward. They want you to say exactly what you saw her do. And there's an indication here that she may have been with Madalina. She may not have been with Madalina. That's something that authorities want answered, and they haven't been able to get that answer just yet. It's also worth noting here because they have been charged with failure to file a report on the disappearance of a child, that they eventually did file this. As we mentioned this, it took them 3 weeks, but because they waited 3 weeks, that's why they're being charged. But that 3-week period is where Diana Cojocari, Madalina's mother, went missing and apparently went to the mountains of Western North Carolina.
And Derek, before we let you go,
As if that isn't sketch, sketch, sketch. You don't report her missing for 3 weeks, and in all reality, you didn't report her missing. They were just, you had to come up with something, and you said, oh, I forgot to tell you, she's been missing since before Thanksgiving. And in that period is when you're seen in the mountains. I mean, I think we can see where this is going. Where the hell could Chris have been that day that she took her drive to the mountains? Oh, Lauren, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I think that I would just assume that he was at home kind of handling everything he needed to clean up.
Keeping the home fires burning. No pun
Correct.
intended.
Yeah, because there's no way she was manning a fire. No offense. I mean, I man my own fire, but I don't know. I doubt that was her. But again, I think between the timing of the police officer seeing her up in the mountains, the timing of the fire department coming out to the fire, I mean, all of these things, and who was out there. Supposedly, she was there at the fire when they came out to check. That's what I've heard. Have you guys heard the same thing?
Yeah, I heard that she was at the fire when they came by, and that she asked them to not put it out.
Right.
At this point, it was just smoldering, and she asked them to not put it out.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the worst part is all of these things are pointing to her. And I mean, obviously that's her child and she's a horrible human being, but I do think that he was heavily involved. I think he might have had her do some of the dirty work, and they give this little, story that he's driving to Michigan just to kind of put everyone off on a different path. But I just hope that they put the hammer on both of them.
He probably wishes he went to Michigan. It's the only way he would be out of this. If he was truly in another state, he'd be totally out of this. We know he couldn't have been, because they're asking for the public. Did you see this white woman? They say this white woman and this Prius in the mountains, or November 22nd through the 15th. Well, the 22nd, he would have been in Michigan or almost there.
I think it's very telling that some of Chris's family, I've talked to some of Chris's family, and they, how do I say this? They're not supporting Chris. I would say that.
I think it's safe to say if he truly had no idea, and if she was really feeding him all kinds of bull as to where Madalina was, he would not be sitting in jail. Even though
and he'd be freaking out when he got back,
and would have called.
Exactly, because supposedly, the lady who we spoke with that is a local and has serviced them, she said that, Madalina calls him dad, which is even more heartbreaking in my opinion. Because that means she looked at him in that light and trusted both of them. And if he truly was that amazing dad that went to Michigan and was so innocent and she did whatever she did, then he would have came home and freaked out, right? Like, he would have lost it, went to the police. I mean, it's just not the case. So he's
and not to
heavily
mention,
involved.
Yeah, and Lauren, not to mention, when him and Diana went to that local store, they both made excuses as to where Madalina was.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah.
if she was at a sleepover, he would know about it. If she was after
Yeah.
school, he would know about it.
Yeah, I mean, he probably came up with this story to help him, like, I think that I think he probably always was kind of like, if you do something like this, obviously we don't know exactly to the extent of what this is, but we all have a good idea. That there's a possibility you're going to get caught, right? So they're creating this story, horrible story that could have done better. And I think that this story of Michigan was just to kind of help him, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they're not even, the local police in Michigan are not talking about it. So if they thought he was there and he brought Madalina there, they would be talking about it, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I mean, it goes without saying they would probably make him serve, at least the 4 months, like the reporter said, but there would be a light at the end of the tunnel as opposed to the way it's looking right now.
And another thing I found interesting is that everybody that saw Chris, like in the neighborhood, they said that he was always the one with Madalina. So I just feel like he would have tabs of where she was. I definitely think they're involved. They're both involved in this.
I totally forgot about this, Kat said, and another one. Why did he say he did not see Madalina for a week before his trip? That's never going to make sense to people. I could see them even in the under the same roof, living very separate lives. But then when it came out that after she went missing, they were seen out on day dates, I guess, acting like newlyweds.
I think that this is just a part of the story that they messed up. Like, a lot of people have looked into this exact sentence like very deep, and I haven't at all. I'm like, he messed up his little story that they made up. And honestly, I think it's another attempt for him to try and get out of it. That I haven't seen her, and kind of put it back on Diana.
Yeah, I agree, Lauren, because I would probably bet anything that there's footage of in that local store within that week. I bet there's a lot of footage from that local store.
Absolutely. I just wish, you guys all know, and in the case of, and I'm sorry if you guys hear my little snorting French bulldog, I'm trying to walk away from her, but she's following me. But in the case of, she has breathing problems. But in the case of the woman that's missing, we've already found out so much more details than we have on this case that's been for almost 2 months. It's just sad.
Every freaking minute something comes out with that. My God.
Right.
Well, the time delay, there was such a time delay that we're so behind. They've had so many weeks to destroy evidence and footage and phones and
no,
everything.
But even like going to the store, and I told you this, we've got Home Depot, we've got Lowe's, we've got Ace Hardware, we've got 2 grocery stores all within a mile of their house, So if you are going to do something to her, you have to have bought something somewhere or something that would lead you to this, right?
Right.
Or searched something like how to get rid of a dead body, which is ridiculous that man searched that. But, something has to tie them to this because they're not professionals,
No, we can see just in the affidavits that they're not smart. They have the wrong, 2 different stories.
Yeah.
I really
story.
strongly believe, I really do that the police, they know, now they just have to tie it together.
Well, and they've got them in jail so they can take their time. They know that they're going to be there for, a couple of more months, 6 months, up to a year. So they know they at least have that much time to build their case. That's good. What really burns my butt, though, what really burns my ass is that you hear in all of these cases, it's kind of a cliche now. The first 48, every second matters, every minute matters. I hear some people saying, when a child goes missing, well, why don't they check the dump? Well, because if you check the dump, you're not looking for an alive person. You have to exhaust your search. There's no living people in the dumpster or in the landfill. So
well, I do know that they were supposedly looking into that avenue. They have to. But I mean, you're right. They don't. Not only that, but it's 3 weeks after potentially.
Right. And
That.
they were, go ahead, Lauren.
Oh no, I was just saying that would be just that's a hard thing for them to find, given that time.
But they were 3 weeks behind. That's why when the Harvey Montgomery case came out, I was livid. I said, no way. 2 years of backtracking. So in this case, 3 weeks of backtracking the police had to do. It's a wonder we're as far as we are.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that honestly, they know that they're not looking for her alive. I know it sounds awful, but they were searching the woods, in that pull-off area.
Yeah.
It was just a couple of days into it that they were searching the lake.
Right. So, I mean, I really do strongly think that they know.
I do too. And I think there's things in the house that kind of tell that story. I think that they're trying to get as much as they can because they want to really, give it to them with all the evidence that they do find. But I think if they had to, they probably have enough to get an idea of what happened. And I do think the fire plays a role into that.
I just don't see any way, shape, or form. I've been wrong before, but I don't see any way that fire pit doesn't somehow correspond with her disappearance. Something was in that fire.
100%.
Especially
Absolutely.
when the neighbors never knew them to be fire burners before. People will light a fire on the back patio, have a glass of wine or whatever, and
roast a marshmallow. Yeah, you're not out there doing, like, if you have cushions, you throw them in the dump, you throw them in the trash can, the trash picks them up. You don't burn them, and a lot of people have thought maybe that has nothing to do with it, but I really just, like, with every gut I have, 100%, it is related. They got rid of probably the clothes in the book bag that she's stating they had, trying to show that she ran away, and the cushions and whatever else is evidence of kind of whatever they did.
And it's interesting that you say, like, to possibly they were trying to make it look this way, that she just ran away. That's probably what he was hoping. They're just going to they're just going to think she ran away. She's 11 years old. They're just going to think she ran away.
Well, and we actually just had a runaway in Cornelius back in July. She was 13 or 14, I think, and they ended up finding her. It was a couple weeks, maybe. Don't quote me on the time, but that was a thing that just went around in Cornelius, which was kind of an unknown thing that happens here. And then this happens. I just think they were trying to play that story like, oh, we got in this horrible fight. She went to her room, trying to make it sound like she was bothered by this fight and she just ran away because we're fighting. That's kind of how I feel like they drummed that up. She took her book bag. She was in these clothes. Like, no, they got rid of the book bag. They got rid of the clothes.
I've like sat here day and night and just like tried to figure out why. And then like, I don't get it, because there's so many different ways they could have went about this. I mean, they could have pulled her from school. They could have, there's so many ways. And then, part of me thinks like, was this a horrible accident? And they covered it up.
And that comes up in every case. And I think that's just our minds trying to deflect from what we know is probably going to be the outcome. Maybe it was just a horrible accident and they covered it up.
So she, the store worker told us a story about Madalina, and she told us Madalina was looking for this Kinder egg. It was a specific color, like whatever, a specific something in it. And Diana sat there, for 5-7 minutes searching for this one Kinder egg she wanted. And it just stuck to me, like, why, she was always so well cared for. It's just, I don't get it. Like, I can't put the pieces together.
It's funny you mentioned that story, because when she spoke, what stood out to me was the $70 Squishmallow. It seemed like they were constantly. Now, here's the thing, though. Are they buying stuff to get her to be quiet so she's not an inconvenience to them? They just give her what she wants so she can be quiet and let them, have their little makeout sesh or whatever. Like, that could also be a piece of it. So I don't know if necessarily buying things for her equals love. Like, a lot of people show that in that way, but it's not true. So I don't know. I thought of that, and then I was like, well, maybe they're just doing it because they don't want to deal with her, and they're just like, here. Because the real parent would be like, no, not real parent, but like a lot of people teaching their kids things would be like, hey, we're not going to buy a $70 squishmallow. You've got to work for it. Do some chores or da 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 da, you know, and have that
Well,
hard conversation.
and it's
So
so weird to me. The same thing. Like, why? And it's like this store worker knew this family more than anyone else. Like nobody else has told us anything about Madalina. Nothing besides her. Like, how sad is that that this store worker has come forward to tell us about her and the family?
yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say on that piece of it is a lot of people have said this as well, but in public you act one way. So regardless of how they saw her in public, I still don't think that exists.
Uh-oh, Lauren cut out a little bit.
I don't know if y'all heard that, but I just think that, you know, he may have acted a certain way in public and a totally different opposite way at home.
Oh, I have a feeling too. And Tammy's exactly right. She said, thank God for the school doing their job, or it would have been much longer. Had they kept taking Diana's line of bull and not gone directly to the house, left the truancy package where they know they'd been there, I don't think she would have shown up to the school. I don't think we'd be talking about Madalina right now.
No,
Yeah,
and you
I
know,
agree.
a lot of people are blaming the school. You know, they should have done something quicker and this and that. But they exceeded the criteria. They went above and beyond the school criteria. You know, it has nothing to do with the school. The school did more than, you know, she wasn't, they followed all guidelines and more.
And
And
at the end of the day, the school, it has, you know, should have no blame. They should not be getting any harsh anything. At the end of the day, it is these two adults that are in charge of Madalina, and the school did what they needed to do. I think it's unfortunate that it was Thanksgiving, and that kind of gave a week of like, oh, maybe they're out of town for Thanksgiving. And that's the weirdest part about this whole thing is they talk about, oh, he went to Michigan on the 24th. Like, that's Thanksgiving Day, you know, a day you're all supposed to be thankful and, you know, being blessed, thankful for your family, and then you have this going on at the same time. It's just horrible.
You know, can you imagine how hard it would have been for him to travel 26 hours within 3 days?
During Thanksgiving, everyone's traveling. I think there was bad weather. I don't know.
yeah, it was a bad storm. No, that was before Christmas. Sorry. But yeah, there was a storm then too.
And you know, I honestly think they were trying to drag it out to December vacation.
Yeah, possibly. I think they didn't know what they were doing, to be honest. They're just kind of, they obviously didn't think any of this through, because what they came up with, I think we've all three actually said it, we could have came up with something better.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, that makes me man, I'm really usually like always like dead set on something, you know, in a case, but I'm just not. Like I don't have a theory because there's so many turns and now they're searching this random road in the middle of nowhere that Diana has, I mean, what I have seen, no ties to.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just as simple as that, you know. Find a I don't know. I hate
But
saying
why
this
there?
out, but I mean, we all kind of have an idea of why we think she was up there, right? I mean, unfortunately. And I think it was just finding a random spot. They were familiar with the mountains because obviously she posted a lot of photos up there. So this might have been a place that had a really pretty lookout that they were kind of familiar with, even if we all weren't, you know. There's so many places up there.
I was of the thinking, I shouldn't say I bought into, but I was of the thinking that, you know, Chris is horrible, terrible devil, and Diana could have been intimidated to not do the right thing. Not that there's an excuse, no excuse at all. But then when I heard the story about them gallivanting around town, visiting a specific shop, acting like they're on top of the world, on their pink cloud of love, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. No, she certainly wasn't acting in fear. And even if he told her in the car,
No.
you better act like you worship the ground I walk on. She can't fake that, not with a daughter missing. No.
No, I do think though, like pretty I think that he is a controlling person. I think he probably likes to have it his way. Again, he like ordered her. Like that's not a normal thing that people do
Mhm.
most often. And so I do think that he probably has a certain personality. And then I think that she's probably a weak individual that likes that and kind of thrives on being, in her eyes, like loved, but really he's kind of looks at her probably as like a possession. I definitely think there's a weird dynamic there, but 100%. I mean, they're both just as guilty and
Partners in
yeah.
crime. Partners in crime. Partners in cover up or some, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That just made honestly, it actually just kind of freaking grossed me out. I was like, ugh.
Oh yeah, they care more about their relationship than obviously parenting. I really truly feel like they looked at her as a burden to their relationship.
That could be it. That God. It's sickening. Bob said, yeah, I was under the impression at first that the honeymoon was over. Nope, they do PDA the whole 9 yards. It's just disgusting. And who could be fawning over each other knowing that you're going to come home to an empty house because odds are Madalina's somewhere in the mountains and you had a fire pit to get rid of her clothes. It is just horrific.
Yep.
Oh, well,
I think that we're going to see a lot come out in the next week. I hope so.
well, they don't need to be in any hurry. To be quite honest, I'm not trying to be grim, but the odds of finding an alive Madalina tells me they're not leaning that way, or they would have never been out in the lake. They would have never been out in the lake.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, I agree.
So Madalina's not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere because they're behind bars. So now they can, what do they say? Get a conviction, not an arrest. Isn't that the catchphrase now?
Right. I would love a press conference though, something, anything.
Mhm.
And it's really sad, guys, because if you go, on the local news outlets and you look them up on YouTube and you see how many views they have, and the story is getting 200 views a video. It's like her name is not being pushed far enough.
I was having a very hard time finding anything on it when the story first broke.
Yeah.
Locally or anywhere. I couldn't figure it out.
There was nothing. I mean, they're very private people from what we know, and nobody knows them, and it was hard. And I just am so shocked that this little girl was missing for 22 days and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, I thought that in itself would blow the story. I just thought, oh my gosh, this needs to be everywhere. She's been missing for 3 weeks. Not so, they just.
But part of me feels like they're not pushing it because they know.
I agree. And because they're like, oh, well, she's already been missing for this long. Like, if she was missing right away and they knew that it was actually missing, there's a chance she's alive, right? And I just think that chance is gone.
We've also been following, this just broke today, about Athena Brownfield. I put a video up earlier this afternoon, well, before this show. She was left home alone with her older sister. Her older sister is not 14. She's not 15. She's not 16. She's 5. She's 5. Now, one of the stories is that her mom was out of town with her new boyfriend. Then I hear that she was with a babysitter. Then I hear, no, this is a guardian. Now it turns out, I guess there is an update coming out right now. Let's look at that real quick. Well, not now. I guess it's over. So I'll update you guys on that later. I was just going to catch it while we have everybody together, but it's tacky to do that anyway. I don't like to cross cases, but these people make me so mad. They make me so mad.
And it's case after case after case of missing children that aren't reported on time or that are left in, situations to put them there. It's a mess. This year has been, ugh.
Yeah, and you leave in this case, I'm talking about Athena Brownfield on the other side of Oklahoma City. And if a majority of the reports are correct, you leave a 5-year-old in charge of a 3-year-old. They're sitting there eating syrup. That's what they're eating. The mailman discovers they're home alone. For mom to go to Oklahoma City with her new side piece, that's ridiculous.
Like, I have a 4 and a 5-year-old. I can't imagine I can't imagine. Like,
Then we have the case we're talking about right here with Madalina. You don't tell a damn soul. Even the mailman didn't know she was gone for 3 weeks. Good God. I freak out with, if my cat is outside for too long, and my cat and I fight like, well, cats and dogs sometimes.
I cannot shake the dirty feeling of them just walking into the store and that poor lady, oh my gosh, that poor worker, asking, where's Madalina? She told us her last conversation. She asked where she was, and the lady said, Diana replied to her and kind of giggled a little, oh, she's at a sleepover. and that poor woman didn't know a thing. She didn't know a thing.
I don't know why, it just grosses me out.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
I mean, good God. They're like pawing at each other and everything in the store. Madalina's missing. Nobody wants to see that anyway. But then you find out later that this PDA was going on. They're on cloud 9 and Madalina's missing.
And that poor lady, she asked him multiple times. Her and Madalina grew a relationship, and she was making a joke the last conversation. She said, "Get your little booty in, tell her to get her little booty in here. I miss her," and she just laughed it off and just, oh man, yeah. They knew. They both knew. They had plenty of opportunities to tell somebody. Plenty. They didn't. They chose not to.
And they had 3 weeks, and all they could come up with was where's the remote game. Well, I asked him when he got home, and he asked me where she's at. Well, between the two of you, you realized you weren't on the same page. That's when you get a third party in, and that third party wears a badge that's going to get in other parties that are going to help you find her.
Right. And, I would love to know what family member was at court of Diana's. I would love to know that. I would love to know why none of them are sharing her flyer, why her aunt is all over the internet and has thousands and thousands of followers, but yet can't mention her name. There's a lot of weird, awful things that don't make sense.
It's depraved behavior, in my opinion. And, I don't want to pick on the families too much. I don't want to pick on them too much, but it's got to be said. Diana's family knew that she had lost sight, I'll put it mildly, of Madalina. They know how to use a phone. They could have called the authorities in North Carolina and said, now I don't know the protocol there, but maybe you can help because Diana can't find Madalina. Can you guys send someone over to help her find her? They didn't even do that.
I know. And I try to imagine myself in that situation, and I probably would have no idea how to get a hold of us over here, but I would find every damn way to do it. And I think we all would, especially as moms, or that's our family. I would do anything. I would go above and beyond, 24/7. I can't imagine if I was in the situation of my little niece or something. I don't have a niece, but if I had one, and, that would be just tragic.
Yeah, and this is the digital era. This isn't we don't have landlines where you have to make a $500 phone call to get a hold of somebody across the world. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's different ways of getting a hold of people that are free.
Right.
I can't believe that they just let that go, and then they make that display, whoever the family member is, when they're coming out of court a couple of weeks ago, and of course there no comment, not even a look at the camera, we're here, we want to find Madalina. They actually do the shoe sign, and people say, well, it's a cultural difference. It's not when a child is missing. It's not.
And could they do anything about that, knowing that she's missing and they didn't report anything? Could they not get some type of charge as well?
I mean, I think it's because it's overseas. It would be very hard.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think Chris's family knew. I don't.
No, I don't either.
You know, they're guilty of being not in her life and aware, but you know, they're not. I don't think that they're guilty of knowing that she was missing.
Yeah, but I don't think they're guilty of even not being aware, because I know it's 3 weeks and that's a long time, but, like, ask yourself truly, when you have family that far away, how often are you really speaking with those younger kids, you know? They could be asking Chris and Diana, "Oh, how's Madalina? How's she doing in school? Oh, she's doing good." You know what I mean? Totally acting like nothing was ever wrong, and I think that's why Chris's family is so adamant on kind of not being on their side, because they didn't give any impressions that she was missing to them.
No, and you could be 100% right.
It's odd to me that Chris kept up the farce with his family. They had no idea. I mean, they were hit like a ton of bricks, but Diana's family were aware that there might be some problems on the home front and that Madalina wasn't missing. I mean, is missing.
Yeah, I found that weird that they spoke up about her family knowing, you know? She's like, "Oh, I called," like, she brought her family into it, you know, to kind of go
But I
down with
mean,
her, right?
did she really though? I mean, did she really call her family? I mean, that's in a news article that came from Moldova. You know, I find that hard to believe. I
Well,
do.
that's even weird. I mean, was it her dad that was stating that happened? I mean, that's so weird. Why would you say that?
Yeah, why
I
would
believe it was her sister.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought it was her father or her mother, because if it was the sister, it'd be like, well, maybe her sister misunderstood. Not that there's anything wrong with the sister, but it held a lot of weight with me when I saw the translated article, because I thought, as a grandparent, you'd be on the next flight out if you get your visa approved. And you would certainly say, hey, my daughter's not in her right mind. Somebody's going to have to help her find Madalina.
Absolutely.
Right. It's not like these people were, it's not like they weren't well connected. That family was well connected. Sorry, guys, you can hear my kids. The family was well connected. You know, they're powerful. They have a big following. It's not like they're just in this little country in Moldova that, you know, it's not like that.
No. Somebody would have helped them get help for Madalina. Somebody would have. Well, guys, that's all I've got. I really appreciate you coming up, Lauren, and of course giving us the local perspective. Sluggy, keep up the good fight, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having us up, Brooks. We appreciate it.
No problem. We're just going to keep hammering away at this until finally there's a resolution. I'm afraid the resolution is going to be horrific and sad, but we're going to keep doing it.
Right. And if we can't,
before we get off.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope. I was just going to say, you know, we'll fight for justice if that's, you know, what it is, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And our group has been, I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. Our group has been raising money to do a couple things for the police department. We'll be bringing some food on Friday, and for anyone that's on here that's donated, just greatly appreciate you guys contributing to that. And I'll be updating photos of that, and they greatly appreciate it.
And that is such a cool idea. I love that. I was kind of late to the punch and put my money in a couple of days ago, and that needs to be done. I mean, every now and then, even when there's not something, you know, major going on. Mm-hmm. I just love that idea.
Yeah, I'm going to hop off here because the kids are going wild, but thank you, Brooks. Thanks, Lauren, for coming always with me. Appreciate you both.
Appreciate you both. All right, guys, thanks for coming in here. 2 for 2. 2 shows today. But thanks for coming in here and getting the update on Madalina. Definitely not the update that we wanted, because she hasn't been found. But that's how it goes, and we keep doing our thing. So make sure you are reminded. I don't know what time the show tomorrow morning is going to be for sure, because I don't know what time Bushy in the Idaho 4 case is due in court. I've heard 8 a.m. their time. I've heard 10 a.m. So just make sure you're reminded, And that way you'll know that we're live and we can watch him come into court. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you either over in Discord or one of the Facebook groups. But if I miss you, I'll see you back here tomorrow morning. You guys are the best. See you later.